Hey everyone, what's up? This is Dr. Charlie Johnson, physical therapist, and in today's video I want to share with you the biggest sign that I listen for that lets me know whether or not you can achieve natural pain relief from things like back, butt, and sciatica problems. And if you don't have this sign, then chances go way down that you can be helped naturally, so listen closely. Also, be sure to stick around to the end because towards the end of this video I'm going to share with you 7 steps that you can use to begin getting to the bottom of why you hurt and starting to figure out sort of what you can do about it. Real quick, for those of you who do not know me, my name is Dr. Charlie Johnson. I'm a physical therapist and orthopedic specialist, and basically, I help teach people all around the world with unresolved back, butt, and sciatica problems, essentially how to fix themselves using the mind and movement as medicine so that they don't need to rely on others to fix them. All right, so the number one sign that indicates that you can most likely resolve your pain naturally is if you have good and or bad days, or times, or moments. In other words, if you have variability in your symptoms. So, do you have some days or times that are better than others? If yes, then chances are very high that you can be helped, and you can be helped naturally, so without pills, shots, and or surgery. And good days and bad days reveal a trend denoted by what I call peaks and valleys along your healing journey. So for example, let's say you have the amount of pain that you experience on the vertical axis and time on the horizontal axis. It would look something like this. So for example, let's just say that you have the amount of pain that you experience on the vertical axis and the time on the horizontal axis. Good and bad days would look something like this if you mapped or graphed it out. And in a moment here, I'm going to share with you exactly what I would do with this data, walk through again those 7 steps to help you figure out again what you could do, what you need to change, etc. But here are a few examples of what I would categorize as, good or bad days or good or bad times. The first example of something that creates variability in your symptoms would be what I call exceptions. So if there are times when, certain activities are good, but then other times when they aren't so good, then this is, again, a good sign. It might be confusing to you, but it's actually very normal. So for example, I chatted with a woman recently who said there are times when sitting is really bad, Dr. Charlie, but other times when it's not so bad, or, I can sit longer with less pain. On one end of the spectrum, right, if you can sit longer, then you could classify that as good, but if you have trouble sitting, then maybe that's bad. So she might not know exactly, what allows her to sit and feel good one moment and maybe not so good the next moment, but just recognize that just because you don't, understand something or it doesn't seem to make sense to you doesn't mean that there's not something there. Chances are you're missing it because you just don't have a trained eye. So if you have an exception to the rule, again, where you can do something and it hurts one moment and then maybe it doesn't hurt so bad the next moment, this is a good sign and indicates that you have variability in the symptoms. And chances are you can be helped. So another thing that gives me confidence, if you will, in the ability to help you naturally is if you've tried natural treatments up to this point and they've given you some temporary relief. So think chiropractic, PT, massage, acupuncture. Maybe you do them and you feel good when you walk out the door or for a day or two, whatever it is, but you have some form of relief from a natural solution, but then maybe the pain returns. That's okay if it returns, at the highest level, if you zoom out, you got some relief. And this indicates what I would call like a break in the clouds, right? That just needs to be exposed a bit more. So it's a cloudy day, you hurt, but then when you get this treatment, the sun peeks through for a moment. So oftentimes what we need to do is we need to do some research, do some detective work and figure out like, hey, what is allowing that treatment to give you temporary relief, number one, and number two, why does it return? And this often takes some type of detective work as it relates to your day-to-day sort of operations and or routine. Because chances are there's just something that continues to undo the treatment that you just received. A final example of what people often tell me and points to variability in the symptoms, good versus bad days, would be this idea of like, Dr. Charlie, there are times when I'm distracted and or engaged in something joyful and I notice less symptoms. So are there times when you're doing something you like and you feel less pain? If so, this points to an issue with preoccupation, and pain is a great preoccupier. When you hurt, well, you focus on it, right? But sometimes joy can override it. And if/when you're engaged in something joyful and or that you actually like to do, you may notice that you feel very little, if any, symptoms. So big picture, it's kind of the idea of what goes up must come down. So in context, sure, if you feel good, absolutely you could feel potentially worse at some point because they're just opposites, right? But if you're someone who views the glass as half full, then the opposite could also be true. If I feel bad, then it's possible I could also feel good. And so at the end of the day, variability in symptoms is a good thing and leads me to believe that you can be helped naturally, but it often requires a bit of detective work to figure things out. And so as promised, I wanted to share with you the 7 simple steps that you can start to kind of work through to help you do the detective work needed to best figure out what's causing your pain. And if you're interested in learning how these 7 steps fit into the bigger picture of recovery, then just feel free after this video to register for my free online workshop where I share with you the entire sort of 4-step process, pain relief process that I have created and that I teach to folks all around the world to help them with their unresolved back or sciatica problems, again, so that they can fix themselves. So it is linked in the description as well as pinned in the comments. All right, so let's take a couple minutes here to review the 7 steps that'll help you start to, again, do that detective work needed to figure out what's going on, why you hurt, and what you can do about it. All right, so step number 1 is that you want to map out your pain cycle. And you see, again, you can see here that on the vertical axis, we have pain, 0 is no pain, 10 is, let's just say, the worst pain, right? And then we have time on the horizontal axis, ranging from basically morning, when you get up, kind of throughout the day, to when you go to bed. So you can see here, for example, this person feels pretty good when they wake up. The pain starts to escalate, then it calms down a little bit, and as they go throughout their day, for whatever reason, symptoms kind of peak and then they trail off. So think about, again, when you wake up, how do you feel? Map it accordingly. As you go throughout the midday, how do you feel? And then at night, and kind of draw some, maybe you just put some different dots at some different points and get an idea so that you can step back and really kind of graph this thing out and get a big picture look at, what happens to your pain, the peaks and valleys throughout the day. So after you've mapped out your pain, the second step is to list out your daily workflow and or routine. And so I would just recommend just kind of brain dumping here. So you can see in the morning, this person wakes up, they go to the bathroom, drink coffee, eat breakfast, right? Not sure anybody reads newspapers anymore, but maybe you still do that, right? And then you drive to work. In the middle of the day, maybe that's your time when you're working. Maybe you're sitting at your desk, right? Not only think about what you're doing, but what your body is doing during that time. So, if you're working, might look much different for one person than does another person. One person who's working, well, they might be up on their feet throughout the day or doing a lot of heavy lifting. Another person, maybe if you're watching this, is sitting at their desk, right? If you have a desk job, maybe you eat lunch, or maybe you take some time to take a walk. Go ahead and list that stuff. And again, think about the body positions that you're in when you're doing those things. And finally, right, as far as, towards the end of the day, you drive home. This person makes dinner, right? They watch Dancing with the Stars, and then they read a book in bed. And then the third step is you kind of want to overlay them. So you want to look for peaks and patterns. So the peaks are when pain is at its highest. And not only just looking at the peaks, but look at the ramp up. So this person wakes up, they're feeling pretty good, but then they drive to work and seems like, right, and these are hypotheses and theories, but they're testable at the end of the day, right? It seems like driving to work maybe causes some type of peak. And then as they get out, move around before they kind of settle in at their desk for the day, they start to feel a bit better. But then as they sit there throughout the day, right, starts to increase. And then finally, like, ooh, they're moving around, ready to go home, and the drive kills them and peaks or spikes the symptoms, right, until they get home and they can be more active. So start to look for peaks and patterns in sort of that graph and figure out, hey, what could be contributing to the increase in the symptoms that I'm experiencing? And step 4 is tweak those activities or habits or routines leading up to the peaks, right, in that merge period, in an effort to reduce the height of the peaks and kind of learn about what's contributing or potentially contributing to your symptoms, right? And some of this might be theoretical. You might not be exactly sure, but do a little bit of detective work. In this case, it looks like, again, maybe the sitting at work and the driving seems to lead to the peak. So I'd be asking, hey, how can I sort of change that up? And you might have to think outside the box. And there's lots of different things that we could change or tweak, but start to try on some different ways of doing these things, again, to reduce symptoms. After you've studied the peaks, right, study the valleys. So it's useful to identify, yes, what causes aggravation of your symptoms, but it's also highly valuable to study the valleys and figure out what you're doing when pain is minimal, what's keeping the symptoms low or what's lowering them. And so you can see here in this example, right, this person just gets up from lying. So it seems like anytime they're sort of reclined back, again, remember they watch Dancing with the Stars, anytime they're reclined back, right, they feel better, or lying down. Now, you can't do that all day because lying down is the absence of motion. There's no motion involved there, right? But think about something that's a little bit more active. So as this person gets out of their car, right, they're no longer driving. Maybe they're walking into work or saying hello to people in the office first thing, right? Then they start to feel a little bit better. Or at the end of the day, remember, they take that mid-afternoon walk, and it seems like there's a little bit of a dip in the symptoms until, again, peak, they get in the car. So you can start to study these things and figure out what might be helping you reduce, again, the symptoms that you experience. And so we've studied the peaks and we've studied the valleys. And now what you want to do in the 6th step is prescribe and multiply. So bottle up the activities or positions or things that minimize your symptoms and then time them accordingly. Right? Time when you do these things, these feel-good things, such that you do them before the initiation or the sort of increase in the symptoms, before the peaks. Strategically place them before symptoms increase. So in this example, it seemed like walking or being more active reduced the symptoms overall, led to some of the valleys, right? And so what you would want to do is you take walking, bottle it up, right? And then say, hey, when could I do that in a way that would make logical sense, strategically placing walks, right, at different points in the day to kind of break up these, yucky positions or activities. So I would say, hey, 3 or 4 times throughout the day, take a walk, maybe before you get in the car in the morning, right, to get you rolling and to kind of pop that movement pill, if you will, before you get in the car, because you know that's probably going to increase symptoms. How about breaking up sitting throughout the day by putting it sort of, mid-morning? And what about before you take the long drive home? Could you stop for 10, 15 minutes and take a walk then to, again, take that movement as medicine? And then finally, step 7 is optimize. You want to optimize the movement prescription. You want to tweak the dose, the frequency, and the timing of when you do these things for maximal, therapeutic effect or benefit, right? So you have dose, how much are you doing? So a lot of people, right, they'll say, hey man, my pain kills me when I start driving home or throughout the day, but they'll just do like a 60-minute walk in the morning because it's convenient. But if you think about it, if you have movement as medicine, then, exercise is cumulative. Your body doesn't know if you do it for 60 minutes or if you do it for 4 15-minute bouts. So chunk that, break that pill up, if you will, into 4 different sections, and maybe do 15 minutes again in the morning before you drive, 15 minutes mid-morning, 15 minutes before you go home, something like that, okay? So frequency is 3 to 4 times, 15 minutes, for example, right? You obviously want to play with this. And then, maybe again, really being smart and thinking about when you're doing it, in this case, before the peaks or the times of maybe prolonged sitting and or driving. All right, so the key takeaways from this video are that, look, number 1, if you have certain times or days or moments when you feel good, then chances are you can get good naturally. You just need to figure out how to amplify or magnify that good effect. The second takeaway is that getting good and becoming pain-free is not a quick fix. And it's more than just, hey, Dr. Charlie, like, what can I do? What exercise can I do for this problem? It takes detective work to figure out what's contributing to your pain as it relates to your healing environment, mentally and or physically. And if you don't put in the work, then you'll do all this stuff, but you'll continue to undo it because, again, something in your environment will continue to perpetually pick the scab. And the third takeaway is based off of one of my favorite quotes. It's like, hey, give a man to fish and feed him for a day, teach a man to fish and basically feed him for life, something like that. So if you rely on others to fix you, then your ability to improve will forever be dependent upon that person. And so in my experience, the best solutions to pain, especially if you've been stuck in pain for some time now, are the ones that teach you. They give you the tools, they give you the knowledge, the support, right? And of course, yes, the guidance and structure to help you understand what you need to do to begin solving your problem. So the truth is, at the end of the day, only you know exactly what you're feeling. So all you're probably missing is just the knowledge to become pain-free, and you need to know exactly how to apply it, and hopefully this video has helped. All right, so that's all for this video. Hopefully it was helpful. Please like as well as comment below. Let me know what you thought. And hit the subscribe button as well as the bell for notifications when I go live every single week. And finally, if you're interested, check out my workshop, again, where I walk you through the 4-step pain relief process that I teach people all around the world.